A man named David Chang once said, "The best kitchens in the world throw away more food than they serve. Not because they're wasteful, because they refuse to let anything mediocre sit on the plate." I think about that sentence more than almost anything else I've read, because it explains something that took me years to understand about money. The wealthiest people I've studied didn't get rich by adding more to their lives. They got rich by throwing things away first. Here's what nobody tells you. Most people think minimalism is something rich people adopt after they've made it. A reward. A lifestyle choice you earn once the bank account is fat enough to justify an empty white kitchen and a capsule wardrobe. That's backwards. Almost every self-made millionaire I've researched, and I mean actually researched, not the fake Lambo on Instagram kind, built the habit of less before the money ever showed up. The emptiness came first. The wealth came after. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that order matters and why trying to do it the other way around is the reason most people stay broke their whole lives. But before I get into the habits themselves, I want you to sit with a question. Why do lottery winners, on average, go broke within 5 years? Why does a person who suddenly receives $500,000 often end up worse off than before they won it? Keep that question in your back pocket. I'll answer it later, and the answer is going to change how you look at every dollar you make from now on. Let's start with the first habit because it's the one that surprised me the most. Rich people, before they were rich, got obsessive about owning fewer decisions. Not fewer possessions first, fewer decisions. Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck every single day, not because he liked the fabric, but because he understood something most of us never think about. Your brain has a limited number of good decisions in it per day, and every trivial choice drains that tank a little. There's actual research behind this. A study out of Columbia University, later expanded on by psychologist Roy Baumeister, found that judges granting parole were far more lenient early in the day or right after a meal break, and far harsher as the day wore on and their decision fatigue built up. Same judge, same laws, same cases, different mental fuel tank. Now think about your own life. How many decisions did you make before 9 a.m. today? What to wear, what to eat, which route to drive, which 15 tabs to check on your phone. Hi. Every one of those is a tiny withdrawal from the same account you need for the decisions that actually make you money. The habit isn't about turtlenecks. It's about noticing where your mental energy leaks out and plugging the holes before you even sit down to work. The second habit is uglier to admit, and it has to do with friendships. This one stings a little, so stay with me. I had a friend, I'll call him Marcus because that's not his real name, who spent his 20s surrounded by 12, 15 people at any given gathering. Loud group chats, constant plans. He used to tell me he felt connected. But when I look back at where he is now versus where his college roommate is now, the difference isn't talent. His roommate, a guy who barely had 4 close friends, spent that same decade going deep instead of wide. Fewer relationships, but the kind where you can call someone at 11 p.m. and they pick up. Research from Wharton professor Adam Grant backs this up in a strange way. He found that the most successful people aren't the ones with the biggest networks. They're the ones who maintain what he calls dormant ties, a small circle of high-trust relationships they can reactivate instantly when it matters. Wealthy people, before they were wealthy, quietly pruned their social circle the same way a gardener cuts back a tree so it can grow taller. Not out of coldness, out of clarity. Every person in your life either adds energy or costs it, and most people are too polite to admit which is which. Now, here's a small reward for staying with me this far because I promised you dopamine, and I meant it. The lottery winner question. Here's the answer. It's not that they didn't know how to invest. It's that they never built the internal identity of someone who has money. The money arrived faster than the mindset did. So within a few years, their spending simply rises to match a new self-image they never actually adopted. They still think like the person who was broke. So unconsciously, they recreate broke conditions, just with bigger numbers attached. This is why minimalism has to come first. It's not about the stuff. It's about becoming, on the inside, the kind of person wealth naturally sticks to. You can't bolt that identity on after the fact. You have to build it in the emptiness before the money shows up to test it. The third habit is about mornings, but not the way you think. Forget 5 a.m. wake up culture and cold plunges. That's Instagram theater. The real habit is this: wealthy people, before they were wealthy, protected the first 60 to 90 minutes of their day from other people's demands. No emails, no texts, no quick calls. That window belongs to them and only them. I think about Warren Buffett, who famously spends up to 80% of his working day just reading alone, in silence, before the world gets a say in his schedule. Compare that to the average person who wakes up and immediately hands their brain to their phone, checking notifications, absorbing everyone else's opinions and emergencies before they've even had a single original thought of their own. You cannot build something extraordinary in borrowed time. The people who eventually get rich learn, early, that the first 60 minutes of the day either belongs to them or belongs to everyone else, and there is no in between. Let's talk about the fourth habit, because this is the one that quietly destroys most people's 20s and 30s without them noticing. Subscription creep. Not just Netflix and Spotify, I mean the entire architecture of modern life that's designed to nickel and dime you through convenience. The bigger apartment because you can afford it now. The car upgrade. The extra streaming service. The wealthy, before they were wealthy, developed an almost irrational hostility toward anything recurring. Morgan Housel writes about this beautifully in The Psychology of Money. He points out that wealth is not the same as income. Wealth is what you don't spend. It's the gap between what you earn and what you burn, and that gap is where compounding actually lives. Most people chase income their whole lives and wonder why they never feel rich, when the truth is they've just built a lifestyle with no gap in it at all. Every raise gets absorbed instantly. Every bonus gets a new home before it even lands. Minimalism, the real kind, isn't deprivation. It's refusing to let your lifestyle expand at the same speed as your income, on purpose, deliberately, even when everyone around you is doing the opposite. Fifth habit, and this one is personal. I used to think busy was the same as valuable. I filled my calendar the way some people fill a plate at a buffet, out of anxiety, not hunger. Every rich person I've studied eventually had a moment where they realized busy is often the opposite of wealthy. Busy is what you do when you don't trust yourself to sit still with a hard decision. The habit they built instead was ruthless calendar minimalism, saying no to almost everything so the few things they said yes to could actually get their full attention. There's a concept from Greg McKeown's book Essentialism that stuck with me. He calls it the disciplined pursuit of less. The idea that if you don't prioritize your own life, someone else will do it for you, and you'll wake up in your 40s having built somebody else's dream by accident. Wealthy people, before the money, learned to protect their calendar like it was the last asset they owned. Because in a way, it was, now here comes the turn, the thing that changes how you should look at everything I've just told you. You might be sitting there thinking, okay, cut friends, cut decisions, cut subscriptions, cut my calendar. This sounds like a life of restriction. Like I'm telling you to shrink yourself smaller and smaller until there's nothing left. That's exactly what I thought too for years. And it's exactly backwards. Minimalism isn't subtraction for the sake of subtraction. It's subtraction so that one specific thing can get everything. Think of it like pruning a rose bush. You don't cut the branches because you hate the plant. You cut them because the plant only has so much energy, and if it spreads that energy across 40 branches, you get 40 weak, sad little buds. Cut it down to 5 branches, and suddenly each one explodes into something worth looking at. The wealthy don't minimize because they want less life. They minimize because they've figured out that energy is finite, and they'd rather have one branch bloom spectacularly than have 40 branches survive on scraps. That's the real secret hiding underneath every one of these habits. It was never about deprivation. It was about concentration. And that reframes the entire lottery winner story from earlier, doesn't it? Those people didn't lose their money because they had too much of it. They lost it because they'd never practiced concentrating anything in their life. Not decisions, not relationships, not time, not focus. So, when a flood of resources hit them all at once, they had no channel to direct it through. It just spilled everywhere and evaporated. Wealth doesn't reward people who suddenly have more. It rewards people who've spent years building the discipline to direct what they have toward one thing until it becomes undeniable. I think about my own father sometimes, a man who worked the same modest job for 31 years and somehow retired with more in savings than people I know who made triple his salary. I used to think it was luck or some secret investment he never told us about. It wasn't. It was that he drove the same car for 14 years, owned 4 shirts he rotated on rotation, and never once, not once in my entire childhood, made an impulsive purchase I can remember. People used to quietly pity him for it. Meanwhile, they were financing boats they used twice a summer. He wasn't poor. He was concentrated. And I didn't understand the difference until I was almost 30 years old myself. So if you take one thing from the next 10 minutes of your life, let it be this. Stop asking what you need to add to become the kind of person who gets rich. Start asking what you need to remove. The decisions draining your mental fuel tank before 9 a.m. The relationships that cost more than they give. The subscriptions quietly bleeding your gap. The calendar that belongs to everyone except you. Clear the branches. Let the one thing that matters actually bloom. Because the money was never the goal. The goal was becoming someone who could hold it once it arrived. Build that person first, in the quiet, before anyone's watching, before there's a single dollar to prove it. And I promise you, the wealth stops being something you chase and starts being something you simply attract, almost as a side effect of who you've already become. If this resonated with you, like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to continue this journey with me.